Hi guys, today we're going to have a quick look at these. These are a pair of 1998 Yamaha R1 forks. I got these at the front of my R80 project. We're doing a little bit of a build there. So these are going to be for the front end conversion. So we're going to put these on there. But first of all, obviously we've got a bit of work to do. We've got to strip them down. We've got some leaky fork seals, so we've got to do some seals. Bit of paint. The shop blasting, get them all looking new, so it looks good when it goes on the bike. And we'll actually come on to the front end conversion a bit later on in some other videos. And we'll go through how we actually go about changing everything on the yokes and the stem to actually make these fit the bike. Okay, but first of all, today we're mainly just going through a strip down. Purely because we get stripped down before we can get them into paint and get them all sorted. Alright, so forks actually, they can be quite daunting, but they're not too bad. They're actually quite a simple task. You need very few tools. First one we need is going to be 30mm socket and a ratchet. Also you can use a spanner if you like, nice like a ratchet. That's for our top nut up here, okay, which basically is keeping everything inside, keeping all the fluid locked in there. Alright, so a couple of obvious things. Obviously these are full of fluid, so obviously we don't want to be doing them upside down because it's all just going to fall out everywhere. So it's always good to undo your nuts when you're upright, okay. Secondly, there shouldn't be too much pressure on this top nut. A lot of people are scared and kind of winding it, but it should literally just unwind and lift off, okay. Next thing, once we get that undone, we're going to need a 14mm and a 90mm spanner, okay. One thing you will need is a spring compressor of some form inside, which we'll get onto later. I personally made this. It's a little bit jerry-rig, but should work absolutely fine. Okay. So first thing we want to do, undo our top nut on the top, not this little blue one, but the big nut there, which is a 30mm. So that goes on like so. All right. This can be tight at times, but most of the time you can get them undone. Some people choose to make a little jig that you can kind of hold your forks in the vise or something like that. Personally, I don't feel the need. Most of the time, they're just kind of, you can grip the tube hard enough. Okay. You will have an O-ring on the top of this as well, so you just want to be a bit careful not to mash that, otherwise you'll be having to get a new one. Then we get to a certain point, we can undo it by hand. I personally hang the fork leg off the bottom, so I can't accidentally put pressure upwards. I'll just hook the old rim on the desk there. Quite a fine thread as well, so just nice and slowly. There we go. Okay. Now, you notice that fork leg is now loose and the top's now floating. Okay, so we can now push down and it'll expose the top of our fork. Okay, so this is where our spring compressor comes in, or not, because this particular set of forks isn't even attached, which is always good. But naturally, that's where your spring compressor will come in, because we need to access this nut right here, which is our 14mm nut on the top of our dampener rod. And this is in the way normally, so we have to use our little spring compressor to press that spring down so that we can get this off. And we can unscrew this off the top of there. Okay, but today, these forks have come from a friend of mine. It's always a nice surprise when they've already been stripped down inside, which is quite handy. Okie dokie. So, inside here, we then have top cup seal. Remember which order these things go in. We can pull our spring out, like so. Nice and slowly, because there will be fluid obviously on the spring. We don't want to make too much of a mess. That's our spring. I always personally keep everything for right fork, left fork, keep it all the same, especially if you're stripping down two together. There's nothing worse than discovering that you're putting all the wrong parts in the wrong fork and they don't quite seat. At the end of the day, everything's moved and seated all together. So personally, it's just why I like to do it. Obviously everyone's different. Yeah, basically it's just keep tipping this old oil out and you can pull the forks apart. Okay. And for purpose of what we're doing, I'm not going to take all this dampener rod out from underneath. I will go through it purely because I don't need to. I'm just purely doing fork tubes just need to be painted, and I need to obviously change the fork seals. All right, so let me go get a jug, and I'll be able to do that. Personally, nice big jug. All we're going to do, tip the fork fluid out. Perfect. Okay. So now these two fork parts should pull apart. Nice and careful, because there will probably be some residue fluid all over the place. Just like so. So this is the part that we're going to be mainly looking at today. Right down there. Purely because this is where dust seal and our fork oil seal will be located in here. Okay, so we'll be changing these at a later date, which again I'll go through, because these have got to be kind of stripped down, and then these are going to be painted the same colour as my frame to get it all looking nice. I have already gone around, these are quite bad scarring on them, so I've gone around, JB welded all the little scars in, got it all sanded down nice and flat. You've got to be quite careful, because these have texture on them, so I didn't really want to remove the texture. But yeah, I've gone around, done all that, so it's just got to be finely prepped, degreased. Obviously I'll take the fork seals out, and then I'll get these into paint. Okay, so same process on both forks. Obviously they're nice and easy. You shouldn't be scared of doing a fork. There are some bits later on when I come back to rebuilding and bits and bobs that I'll show you, which come into maybe some other tooling we might need just to get fork seals back in and things like that, but we'll come on to that in a later video. Okay, so that's the fork tube. What's this extension here? Okay, so theoretically we could take all our dampener rod out of the fork itself. I personally don't need to, because I'm not really adjusting anything on this side, but if we were going to, we have a bolt in the bottom, okay, which we can undo, and that will release the rest of the parts out of the fork. These forks are actually really good condition, which is nice, which sometimes when you're buying older second-hand forks, these can either be bent, scarred up, pitted, anything like that. I've got one more nut that I will take out the bottom, okay, and then basically these will go into shot blast. Obviously not the top part of the forks, these will all be masked up, but these lower parts of the forks will all be shot blasted down. These will be going black, so I can do the tops in the bronze to match my frame. And then once everything's all kind of painted and sorted out, then obviously these will be going back together. The process is very much the same, just in reverse, so there's not too much pressure or fork, and we'll go through kind of how much fluid and all that sort of stuff in later videos. Okay, but this is purely for the strip down. Okay, so on to fork number 2, same thing. Top nut. Spin the rest. That way. Gently down. Oh, no, this top is also pre-removed. So it makes our life a bit easier today. Means we don't have to actually use a spring compressor, which is a bit of a shame, I couldn't show you. The same thing, obviously got our top. We then have our cut washer. And then we can take our spring nice and gently out. Like so. This one looks like it's already been pre-drained. So I should be able to pull this off. Just like so. A little bit of residue in there. That's fork seal. Okay, and that's that fork done as well. So on both of these, they have a dust seal, and they have obviously the actual seal inside. So what we can normally do is we can normally pry the dust seal out. This fork seal is well and truly shut. Dust seal. And then we've got the actual oil seal in there, which is held in with a circlip. I don't think you can see it, but there will be a circlip around the outside. When you buy the new fork seals, a lot of them say that they come with the circlip, which is always handy. You just got to carefully pop the circlip out. That's our circlip. So it's shaped like so. Okay, once that's out, that just helps to retain the actual seal in there itself. And then obviously we just need to get the seal out. Again, being pressed in there, they can be a little bit tight. Bingo. There's the old fork seal, so it's pretty battered. And there'll also be a ring in there as well, washer. Okay, so you've got to remember which way they go in. Ring goes in, obviously then we'll put fork seal in when we do the new one, and then dust seal on the top. Okay, so that is that one. So that's that. Tube all completely stripped down. Obviously this will now be ready for final prep, along with the other one, which I also need to take out. The dust seal and everything in there, which I'll get done at another time. Alright, but basically that is the basics to forks. They are pretty straightforward, can make a bit of a mess at times. The most difficult part, realistically, is actually using the spring compressor and actually getting to that top nut. But basically all it'll be is that screws on like so. Once you pull your spring out the way of these nuts, that's where your 14mm spanner comes in for this nut. Okay, and then your 19mm spanner comes in, actually goes round the top of the fork, top, and actually undoes. And that's what we're undoing there. Okay, and then once we've undone that, spin it off. And then we can obviously release that spring compressor once we've taken that top off and let that spring come back up. All right. Let's say we'll touch on actually putting them back in another episode, and we'll go through putting the fork seals in, get everything all cushy. But yeah, for now that is as far as we're going to go today, and then I can get these ready, prep them up, get them ready for paint. I'll do some videos maybe on paint and a bit of prep and all that sort of stuff. All right, thanks for watching.